Yo, what is up, everyone? Gonna be coming over here with a Milwaukee Regionals report slash like I guess info guide on Zoroark. So this is kind of my first uh big run of the year. So I kind of wanted to do a quick recap on it. Played a couple events this year, so I was pretty happy to get a good result in my last one. But yeah, so played at Zoroark a good amount leading up to Milwaukee, and even before I knew I was going to Milwaukee, just when Journey Together came out. So yeah, I think the deck was in a really good spot. Kind of with Gardevoir winning 4 events in a row. Dragapult obviously being very popular, and that's a fine matchup for you. Goldango is a pretty good matchup for you. That's like kind of a big like if you look here, we'll go to the metagame right, Milwaukee. Uh, these are the I want the really was Dragapult. Wait, oh, I guess Dragapult isn't. And we need to put the variant grouping on. There we go. So you can see here, that is the reason we wanted to play um, Zoroark. Because we have the favored matchups. I would say this is like very favored, this is like solid, and this is like solid again. So very good matchups are there. And then you have, for other matchups, Raging Bolt here, probably 50-50. Maybe slightly unfavored, but you can get it pretty 50-50. I'll talk about lines in a second. And then your harder matchups are going to be stuff like the Joltik. This is probably your worst matchup. Your second worst matchup is probably the EV Box, which did rise. These decks definitely rise in popularity a lot. I knew EV Box was going to be fairly popular. Did not expect Joltik Box to already be this high meta share. I think if you don't do the variance groupings, it was the third highest. So you can see really high play rate on that. That was really scary to see. And then stuff like the Terra Box can be rough depending on their build. Not by any means unplayable, but on average, harder matchup. And then like the other really tough one is going to be this with the Cornerstone Bouffalont. That deck I think was going to fall off a lot. Not great into Gardevoir, and it just in general had a little bit of a decline. So I felt like we didn't really need to respect the Cornerstone as much. But yeah, so let's go into the kind of details of the matchups. Dragapult, very simple, right? You're just going to be able to consistently ping their Dracloaks off the board, right, with the Darmanitan swing. And Goldango, you're going to be, and then obviously you can like return KO with Reshiram attack if they ever punch 200 into you. Goldango, very simple. You can, if they have a slow start, you can Darmanitan ping their Gimme Ghouls. And if they ever discard enough energy to one-shot a Zoroark with Make It Rain, you always have Darmanitan Backdraft in Math 2 KO, so you can trade pretty positively with that. And then Gardevoir, very simple. You have weakness on Gardevoir, so you can one-shot it with Reshiram, and then you can do the same thing with board wiping, their Curlias, or board wiping their, their Drifloon plus bench thing, or whatever, Screamtail plus bench thing. And then, of course, if they ever try to two-shot your Zoroark, you can punch back with the Reshiram attack. And then Darmanitan comes up as a very big attacker as well. The Pikachu matchup, or the Joltik Box matchup, it's just bad. You have to hope they whiff Jolting Charge, and then maybe you have a chance. But usually, if you set up evenly, they get a Pikachu down, they get a Hands down, they get an Iron Leaves in play at some point to kill a Zoroark. It's pretty hard. If they start a little bit slower, you can piece together, maybe a KO on like a Mew or a Latios to help you. You can set up a multi-prize turn where you snipe like 90 on like a Hands, and then like 180 weakness on like a Latios, or like 120 with like Defiance Band on like a Fez to set up like a multi-prize turn. Those are kind of things that come into play. But usually, if they just get Jolting Charge, swing, 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 you can't really do anything about it. Their deck is not easy to make with Gusts. They play a lot of Gusts. With 4 Boss, 4 Arven as access to Prime Catcher. So, yeah, not great. Didn't play against any Terra Box. That matchup's pretty simple. Well, we'll get into that in a second. I did play against kind of one, but you just hope they don't destroy your board with Wellspring. If you can establish past the first Wellspring, you're usually okay. If you can't, sucks. It's hard also with Pikachu and Teal Mask. They can go for one hits, but you can one-shot the Teal Mask with the Darmanitan Defiance Band, which is very important. And then the other big one is going to be the Raging Bolt matchup, right? With the Baby Bolts, early pressure, it can get a little bit annoying. But if they punch you with like a Raging Bolt EX early, you can go like 170 punch with a Zoroark, and then just go like Counter Catcher Darmanitan, or Counter Catcher Ogerpon, Darmanitan KO Ogerpon, and the Raging Bolt that was punched for 170, and then you have to find your last two on like Squawk Latias, or you can use like Bear to KO something, right? So not bad if you can set up, if you draw fine, it's pretty playable. So let's go into the deck list. I kind of rambled about matchups there. So I went on a build that was similar to the SBE that was played at Seville. Um, we have, the heavier supporter build with research and Iona. We have Jack, Boss, Turo, pretty standard support count. We are not playing the Serrano Secret Box build. I did try early into testing with Serrano. Serrano is very good. I like Jack because it gets your Darmanitans, and under item lock, being able to find Darmanitan is very, very important. Obviously, with a heavy count of Zoroark and Jack, you can always find these guys pretty easily. You can also just raw draw with your supporters. Prime Catcher build over the Secret Box. I just like the aggressive gusting options. Pairs very well with our Darmanitan. We have the one counter catcher as another gust option there, of course, with our two boss. We did opt to go into 2 Ultra Ball. Originally in testing, I was trying 0 Ultra Ball and like 2 Jack and 2 Brock. But I found that having the 2 Ultra Ball just adds to consistency when you pair it with like Research and Iona. You're not getting item locked by every single deck anymore. So having these bailouts to draw into when you're playing your heavy counts of draw supporters plus trade, um, pretty important. And then yeah, 3 ends castle. I want to be able to pivot into Badu. We also want to have the pivot option when you're trying to combo PP up, right? Because it only goes to the bench, so you want to be able to consistently ends castle retreat into your PP up Zoroark. As much as you have the Power Glass in the deck, it's not consistently there, like turn 1, turn 2 swing, as it's just a 1-up in the deck. So you want to make sure you have the ability to pivot and establish ends PP up after you use your first Darmanitan swing on your Night Joker, right? Obviously, Monkey Dory, very good in Dragapult matchup. I didn't really use this day 1 until I put against Dragapult in day 2. But yeah, this card, insane. Blood Mirror Saluna, really, really good. That really makes the EV box matchup more playable, as well as like Raging Bolt and just even Goldengo, right? We're playing high count of Defiance Band, so we can easily access these big KOs with Bear in the late game. EV box, pretty tough matchup, right? You have to be able to stream your board consistently, so having a way to actually one-shot an evolution in the late game does make the prize mapping a little bit easier. I guess I didn't really talk about the EV box matchup, but matchup is pretty hard. You just have to like establish board consistently when you get angelited, and then if they ever try to like bench a Flareon and start powering up Flareon, you can like chase it before it can one shot a Zoroark, punch it for 170, and then like punch it again with like an Iono pairing, or if they have a slower step, you just chase their Noctowls or chase their Hoodoos. Sorry, but it's hard for sure. And then yeah, so let's go to tournament report. So Masters, settings, boom. 16th, 6. So matchups, EV box. I played against a Tropicos Noctowl. I wasn't playing Boufflons, but I was playing corner. Game 1, I opened Monkey Dory, so he didn't know I was playing Zoroark, and he went into Tropicos and not Cornerstone, and he benched a whole bunch of Hoodooed, so I was able to get a prize map there. And then game 2, he was actually playing Wellspring, opted to aggressively Wellspring me. He killed double Darmaka back-to-back turns because he's playing like E-Switch and stuff. And I was able to just like Iono, kill his only Hoodoo, make like a 2-6 comeback. Archalon, pretty chill matchup. If they ever punch you for 220, you can always rush ram them. And if they don't punch you for 220 and they play slow and try to like poison chip you, you can just like start building up damage snipes with like 90-90. You can go after the Squawk ability if they put it into play. That's pretty simple. Guardy, I did tie a Guardy because game 1 I was in a good spot, and then I just like got late game hand disrupted, of course. I had like 2 trades. And I needed like energy plus gust to win the game, and I just like whiffed it 2 turns in a row. Pretty unfortunate, but it happened. And then game 2, I was in a really bad spot. I was doing very poorly early game, but I was able to like stick a Gardevoir with no energy in his discard for a turn, and then like gust it. Or sorry, kill it, and then like gust another Guardian next turn to win the game. So that was pretty chill. Another Archaludon. This is the Zoroark version. Pretty simple. Just they set up a lot of Zoroark, so you can also go for a line where you go 90-90 on the Duraludons. And then like set up a multi-prize turn where you kill their bench Duraludon if they don't evolve it, and then their active Archaludon is in range where you kind of board lock them out of like being able to Turo loop Archaludons. And if they ever punch you, like I said, you can just go rush around KO. So Archaludon I think is probably favorable. Doesn't seem like bad of a matchup. And then of course we took our first loss to Joltik. I got steamrolled. Not much to say about the matchup. It's very difficult. EV box, close game, lost game 1, and I was able to win game 2 and 3. Don't really remember exactly what happened, but it was pretty close. I was able to just consistently bank my bench after Angelites. That helps a lot. This Joltik box, they just drew very poorly, so I was able to win. You sometimes need a little bit of luck in that matchup. Very tough. And then like my 3 Polts in day 2, pretty consistent game plans. Just either like aggressively kill Dracloaks, or like when they do go into a Dragapult, because they're not playing rare candies, you can usually go like 90 on a Dragapult, kill their only Dracloak, if assuming you can kill a Dracloak in the early game, and then like 90 on Dragapult, kill another Dracloak, because they have the manual evolve operator, and you kind of board lock them out of ever getting second Dragapult, and it forces them to win the game with lone Dragapult plus Blood Moon or Selena, which is not easy. So yeah, and I just lost another Joltik box. So that's kind of it for, I guess, matchups. Yeah, I mean, deck felt really, really good. Like I said, I tested a lot of it. There's different ways you can play the builds. Let's go quickly look at the different lists here. So we looked at my list. Let's look at the Bombardier list with Secret Box and Cyrano. This matchup, or sorry, this version of the deck is kind of cool. Like I said, I think Cyrano, very good. Bombardier gives you good access to Cornerstone as well as providing some utility with the fast carrier. You have Cleffa in there. I never found like I needed Cleffa. Obviously, in some matchups, drawing like even 2 cards with Cleffa is actually better than Bedewing. So by that logic, I could get it. But I don't necessarily agree with the Cleffa fully. But I haven't put a ton of work into this version of the deck. I kind of was on my heavy supporter version for a while. We're not playing any nest balls. We're relying on Artisan to find our Darumaka's or a fast carrier. And then you have just like 2 Ends Castle, one of these, you have an E-Switch. So you know, it's very toolboxy. I like Black Belt. I like second Turo. 2 Turo is the only thing I'd currently want to change about my list. I would like second Turo, or maybe 1 Black Belt over second Turo, but I like these counts a lot. Cypher is cool. I don't think it's needed, but I think it is very good. Yeah, and I've obviously no research, 3 out of 4 Serrano, 2 Boss, 2 Catcher, and the Secret Box. Yeah, not really much else to say, just a different take on the deck. The deck functionally performs the same, does kind of the same lines. It is just a different way of getting there, and you have more cool text for other matchups like the Bombardier, whatever you call it, Bombardier, I don't know. You have Secret Box, which kind of like to get you all your pieces in like weird situations, and then of course 4 Serrano, 3 Zoroark, turn 2 type deal. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of it, honestly. You know, I felt like it was a very good play for the event. I think that going into Portland, I believe is the next event, with Raging Bolt winning, I think that should drop Joltik box in play a little bit. I don't know if it'll drop too much. I think it's just like a pretty good deck that's easy to play, so it'll probably always be high count. But yeah, Raging Bolt, you know, I think that's a fine matchup for Zoroark if you can draw decently. If that drops Joltik, we're probably in a good spot. I think Flareon will probably stay around the same, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. So you know, maybe this goes up a little bit, and then like maybe this goes down a little bit. I'm not sure, but it probably stays about the same in terms of your bad matchups being like same meta share-ish. And then like, you know, you get like probably a little bit of a raise in like a 50-50 skill matchup, so you can't really complain about that. And then like Guardy Dengo Polt probably stay around the same. So yeah, I thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. But yeah, appreciate you watching, and I'll see you later.